The Reserve Bank Governor has hit out at his critics, declaring it's unpopular but necessary to hike interest rates. Phil Lowe has faced a lengthy grilling at Senate estimates, asked about his future at the bank and how high rates will go. Let's bring in Trudy McIntosh live in Canberra. Trudy, there's plenty to unpack from Mr Lowe's comments last hour.
There certainly are, Ash, around 90 minutes or so facing senators here inside Parliament House. Right towards the end, we did get some guidance from the Reserve Bank Governor on what to expect on interest rates this year. He says we aren't beyond further rates, but he couldn't say how many more there will be. Directly addressing head-on the criticism that he's been facing in terms of this aggressive rate hike cycle that we've been in now since last May, he acknowledged that this is hurting households, and he's been receiving letters, he said, from people who have been affected, and with a very heavy heart he's been reading through and listening to people's stories. But he argues that this is necessary to tackle inflation, which he says is corrosive in the economy and that is, quote, way too high. We saw some fierce exchanges in this Senate estimates hearing between the Greens Senator Nick McKim and the Reserve Bank Governor, in particular about whether he should remain at the helm of the central bank, but also whether he needs to take responsibility if down the track the aggressive rate hikes will plunge the country into recession. Take a look.
Can you explain to the renters and mortgage holders of Australia why you still deserve to hold your job?
I have a 7-year term as the Governor of the bank, and I intend to serve out that term. The decisions that the Reserve Bank are made by a board of 9 people. It's not just me.
Understand.
We make them collectively and collaboratively.
You seem prepared to smash Australia into a recession?
Can I assure you that's not our intention? We are trying to navigate a narrow path here. We want to get inflation down because it's dangerous.
The Reserve Bank Governor was also asked to weigh in on the politics surrounding interest rates. There's been a lot of scrutiny in the past week or so on comments by Assistant Treasurer Stephen Jones. The opposition has accused him of undermining the independence of the Reserve Bank when on 2 occasions in the past week he has appeared to provide a sense of guidance or suggestion to the RBA on what they should do on rates. We'll show you some of his comments that were made just yesterday here inside Parliament, and then the response from Phil Lowe. Quite instructive. He says it's a free country, but gives a special shout out to Treasurer Jim Chalmers, who he says hasn't been providing any sense of free advice.
We are concerned that further increases are going to put pressure on households and businesses.
Before, it's a free country, and people are free to be able to express their views on issues. It's up to each of us how we choose to exercise the freedom we have. So the Treasurer of the day doesn't comment on monetary policy. That served the country well, and I would observe that Treasurer Chalmers has not discussed monetary policy.
It was a lunchtime hearing here in Parliament House, and a lot of focus at this hearing too about a lunch Phil Lowe had privately with bond traders this time last week or so, around Thursday last week, with Baron Joey in Sydney. Now, there'd been a lot of scrutiny on this in the Australian Financial Review, questions about whether he provided any sense of guidance to bond traders behind closed doors about where interest rates are headed and whether there'd been any moves on the bond market as a result of that. Well, on that point, he said he'd looked into that and the timing doesn't match up, that was purely coincidental. And he's also been pressed on whether it was appropriate in the first place to be having this lunch when he hadn't released a statement on monetary policy. He'd cancelled his yearly appearance at the National Press Club. He says he needs to speak to these sort of people, Ash, that he can't live in a bubble, but an interesting concession and a promise from the Governor here that next time around we won't be seeing private lunches with bond traders prior to that monetary statement being released.
Yeah, the optics weren't great on that one, were they, Trudy? Thank you, live there in Canberra.